and I will unhaul a book if it's not enjoyable. Hello. What's up, friends? I'm Jessica Nicole Dickerson, aka J&D, and welcome back to another video. First video of 2023. Wow, this is weird, but like, I'm very excited. So let's get into it. Today's video is basically about getting so excited for reading for this year. We are going to talk about recent books that I have bought, because you know, Christmas happened, the holidays happened, and I went a little crazy. I'm also going to go over my TBR and my goals to cutting my TBR in half this year. I'm assuming it's doable, but we'll see. I have no idea how many books are on my physical TBR. Also ignore how ugly my bookshelves are. It's literally a hot mess. I still haven't done my final like ultimate unhaul. There's a lot of books on these shelves, particularly the last 4 that I'm unhauling, so don't look, don't spoil yourself. I will talk about that probably in the next vlog. Then I'm going to talk about the only books that I'm allowed to buy for this year. The only books, because I am on a strict book buying ban, and I'll go over that. Strict, I mean not too strict, but like, you know, I'm hopefully not going to be buying lots of books because I do want to cut my TBR in half, which should involve not adding to said TBR, you would think. And also maybe sharing some top priority books on my shelves that I would really like to get to this year. But first, let's just figure out how many books are on my physical TBR, because I'm just going to quickly count and tell you, because I think it's under 100 right now. I mean, these are all my new books too. There's 2 stacks. Can you see the second stack right here? So I'm still hoping it's under 100. Well, I guess we'll have to see. Okay, I just counted. Leave your guesses down below, but I have 95 books on my physical TBR at the moment, which I'm very excited about. And you might be like, how? Your bookshelves are so full. Again, I have a really big unhaul coming soon, and I will upload all the books to that app, Pingo Books, to hopefully give them to you guys, basically. But 95! That's so attainable to cut that in half. To achieve that goal of cutting into my TBR in half, the goal is to read 1 book a week. And to keep myself accountable, I've decided I'm going to go back to kind of like weekly vlog formats. So I won't be doing maybe too many sit-down videos. I'm just going to be vlogging me reading at least 1 book a week. That's the goal. If I read 1 book a week, that's 52 books, and that'll be cutting my TBR in half. I am no longer trying to read 100 books in a year. I have a lot of goals and priorities this year, so we're keeping her in check. I want to create more than I consume, if that makes sense. Okay, now let's dive into all the new books that I got for the holidays. I guess we can start off with the 2 I've already read for this year, and I'll talk more about them and how I felt about them in my next reading vlog. But I have On the Hustle, which is a very steamy romance that my mom gave me, and I don't think she realized it was super steamy, but again, opinions to come in my next vlog. Next, I have On Rotation, which, such a fabulous cover, I love it. Again, thoughts to come for these 2. Can you tell I'm in a romance vibe and a bright color vibe? Like, is it winter or is it summer? For me, it's always summer. The next book I got was The Handmaid's Tale, which I know is like a classic, and I feel like some people have read it and I haven't. I haven't even watched the show yet, so I'm very much hoping to read this. This is actually a big one I want to read because of what I want to write this year, which again we'll talk about soon. This next one I got is Haunting of Hill House. Again, I feel like a lot of people have read it and have watched the TV show, and I have done neither. I do want to watch the TV show. I think I watched the pilot with my parents, and I was like, that's interesting. But for some reason, I never like finish things, especially TV shows. And if you didn't know, I did manage to read last year We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, so I'm very excited to read more from her and her spookiness. The next book we have here is Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I, for some reason, love this cover. It's so, like, minimal but cluttered. I don't know how to describe it, but this book is about a woman who is trying to be a writer, not really successfully, and she is 30, her mom recently passed, and she's just trying to get her ish together. That is definitely the vibe of the books I want to read this year. 30 pages into it too, actually. I have a little bookmark in here, so hopefully I'll actually, maybe this will be my third read of the year. Look at me reading the books on my TBR. Who'd have thought? Next we have The Perfect Bind by Tia Williams. I bought this specifically because I enjoyed 7 Days of June so much, and I know this is probably also a steamy romance, and my heart is telling me that I should read this book next. Like, the yellow vibe, right? It's a vibe. It's a vibe. No idea what it's about besides a woman who, oh, she's 40. Okay, 40, it girl in the fashion industry until she gets fired and I think dumped possibly, and then she has to figure her ish out. Again, the theme of this year. Next we have Third Girl from the Left. This one really interests me because I'm trying to look for more literature that talks about actors, but this is about 3 generations, going back to the oldest generation being a part of the Oklahoma, like, Tulsa massacre, which is very, I mean, interesting to read about. Obviously not interesting that it happened, but I haven't had many books that talk about that too much, so I'm excited to dive into it, and it's going to cover 3 generations, and I believe the youngest generation is trying to be an actress. So I want to see how all of these, like, perspectives collide, but I'm excited. I feel like this is going to be a really good read. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. I'm trying to diversify my adult lit because I feel like I'm in my adult lit era. The View was exhausting. This one I specifically bought because it is about, like, the actor's life, very much so, and other than that, not too sure what it's about. I just see that Taylor Jenkins Reid said that it was a delight, so I'm hoping that it's a delight. I'm hoping the vibe is like Daisy Jones and the Six, but, you know, with acting and, like, you know, glamour and all that stuff. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next stack. Oh my god, I just realized there's a book in here that isn't new. Let me correct myself. Okay, I got some weird books to share with you. Well, I guess this is the only weird one, in my opinion. I got this, and I was like, first of all, I was drawn into the first page because it's about a man who is selling his life. This book is called Life for Sale. It's about a guy who tries to commit suicide, you know, starts off with a bang, doesn't end up following through, and then spends the rest of his life selling his body for other people to, like, do stuff. Like, not prostitution. On the back here it says bizarre requests. See, comedy of errors. He ends up helping a jealous husband, a drug-ailed heiress, and even a vampire. So I think it's gonna get really interesting. The writing style is what gripped me. I was in, I think, Barnes & Noble or some store, and I was reading this and I was like, oh, I could keep reading this. This seems very, very interesting. Like, I want to know what he's up to. Why is he selling his life or whatever? What's going on? What's happening? Oh, the next book my mama got me because she read it and loved it, and it's Black Cake, and I'm sure so many of you have heard of it. I'm very excited to dive into it. I don't know too much about it besides that I think it dives into multiple point of views from, like, different generational standpoints. I believe I'm, like, looking at the back and not even reading it at all, so oh, I just realized there's a face behind all the shapes. I didn't even see that. Can you see the face? I just now noticed that. Wow. And the lips. How did I not notice that before? Definitely going to read this soon, hopefully. Ooh, this next one is an anthology. So, ooh, and the cover, stunning. Okay, Africa Risen, I think you'd say Risen. Beautiful. So a bunch of short stories, and this is all about more, like, speculative fiction and science fiction because I've been getting more into that. Very, very excited. So these are original stories written by 33 acclaimed and award-winning authors. And honestly, I don't think I recognize anybody's name, so everyone will be new to me. So I'm happy to dive into this, maybe for February, Black History Month. Maybe. We have another Christmas gift. It is The Poison Heart. This is by the same author who wrote, what did she write? Oh, that Cinderella is Dead. She also wrote Cinderella is Dead, and I did enjoy that. Her writing style is definitely very YA and like, you know, bang, 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 but though I'm trying to get more into lyrical writing, there's always time for YA. That's definitely going to also help me avoid slumps, is just not reading the same genre back to back to back to back, because that'll lead you to a slump. If you didn't know, now you know. This is the only purchase where I was like, why did I do this? I got it half off because of Barnes & Noble's sale. Did I finish Legendborn? No. But now I'm gonna have a vlog where I read both. So get excited. I read like the first like 2 chapters of Legendborn and went, oh, this is gonna be a favorite book. So when I saw that this was on sale, because this is like, oh, it's not $30, it's like close to $20. It's a really expensive book, hardback, thick boy. So I was happy to get it for 50% off. And it's called Blood Marked, if you couldn't read it. Not me, like, giving you very little details. The last book we have is a special edition that my sister gave me of The Little Mermaid, which is very, very cute. And I think there's other Hans Christian Andersen's childhood stories. What are they called? You know, a bunch of stuff. The Ugly Duckling, The Princess and the Pea, Thumbelina, and there's a bunch of really fun, like, 3-dimensional pop-ups and illustrations. So, excited to read The Little Mermaid. I've never read it before, and it was definitely like my favorite Disney movie, you know, before Moana and before Princess and the Frog and Tangled, you know, the stuff that you grew up with. The Little Mermaid was my jam, my bread and butter. I was like, am I a mermaid? Okay, those are all the books. It's a huge stack, and I'm just realizing how precariously it's standing. I don't know why I stacked them like this, but I did. Notice all the small books are at the bottom. And then all the heavier ones are on the top. Why? Why? Let's move all this and let's get into the only books that I'm allowed to buy this year. Point blank, period. Basically, my anticipated reads. Now I have my planner, and basically what I like to do every year is just figure out what are the books that I'm most anticipating, and I like to write them down in my calendar on the day that they release, just so I know it's coming. I will also say I'm gonna try, and at least in the beginning part of this year, not buy any more books. Obviously I have a lot of books. Literally my last video was a book haul, and I haven't read, I maybe have read one of those books that I hauled. So definitely need to read more before I buy. So hopefully the next time I'm gonna allow myself to buy a few books is on my birthday, which is in the end of February. So hopefully gonna control my impulses for a month and a half. Yeah, wish me luck. So actually the first book that I was really excited for is already out, and I will get it as soon as I am allowed to buy more books, and that is Hellbent by, who wrote it? Lee Bardugo, I think. So I have that. I like to write them in, just like in this little space on my calendar. So Hellbent, I know it came out January 10th. That is one book I'm going to allow myself to buy eventually. Oh, the next one literally comes out on the perfect day because it comes out February 28th, is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest, which, if you don't know, Christina Forrest is like a favorite author of mine. I have an author interview with her on my channel talking about one of her latest releases, which I thoroughly enjoyed. A top favorite of last year. I guess I should talk about my top favorite books of last year. Maybe I'll slide in a few at the end. But The Neighbor Favor is her first adult romance, and I'm here for it. So excited. I love Christina Forrest. Forever a fan. Can we be friends? Please? I'd like that. Checking Goodreads so I don't miss anything. Oh, another book that comes out February 28th, I didn't even realize, is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. I really enjoyed Priority of the Orange Tree, mostly because of the video I filmed of me trying to read it in 24 hours. So I really want to do another trying to read a massive book in 24 hours because it was just so much fun. But that also comes out February 28th. I didn't even realize, so I'm gonna write it in my calendar. The next book that I'm so excited for is Black Girls Must Have It All, which will end the trilogy of, I don't know what the trilogy is called, but it started off with Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, and then it was Black Girls Must Be Magic, both 5 stars, chef's kiss, and then it's going to end the trilogy with Black Girls Must Have It All. And I really want to reread the whole series. It comes out, the last installment comes out April 11th, so it's in the calendar and I can't wait. I actually don't have too many other books that I'm really excited for. I have Small Worlds, which is by the same author from Open Water. I really liked Open Water, again, a favorite of last year. It's just so lyrically written. It's just one of those books where you really want to just take your time reading it because it just sounds so pretty, but also talks about something very meaningful. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely going to support that author. And then I think that's all I really have, in my calendar for anticipated reads. The only other books I would anticipate is if The Black Witch Chronicles comes out with another installment, which technically on Goodreads it is said that the 5th installment, you heard me, 5th installment, I think this is going to be a 6-book series. I don't know. But it's called the Durad Storm, I believe. I'm still finishing up the Demon Tide, which is the 4th installment, but the 5th installment is supposed to come out this year, and I'm so incredibly hyped. If you don't know, that's one of my favorite, new adult fantasies. It definitely leans YA towards the beginning of the series, but by the 2nd or 3rd book, you're like, why is everyone dying? It's amazing. I cannot, again, favorite series of mine. So that's also an anticipated book. I just don't know when it's releasing. And same with if The Last Magician has another installment coming out. I haven't even read or finished reading A Serpent's Curse, which is the 3rd installment, and the 4th installment just came out and I just got it, A Shattered City. Oh my god, that technically should be a part of my book haul because I did get that during the half off sale at Barnes & Noble's. Do I have to get it? One second. Isn't she pretty? Ooh, a favorite book series of mine, but girl, why are you 700 pages? Why? Okay, I just gathered a bunch of my favorite books, which I did mention a few of them, but now I'm going to tell you synopsis and things, so let's get into it. Favorite books of this year. 2 of them are solely because of how big they are and how proud I am that I finished them, and I made some epic videos from them, so I'll leave them down below in case you want to watch them. But first one being A Little Life, which I would not recommend this to most people to read, but I have a whole vlog of me reading it, and I did heavily annotate it, mostly me disagreeing with the protagonist. But what I enjoyed about this so much was how it talked about artists and artists kind of suffering. Again, would not recommend this for the faint of heart because I do feel like this book, its plot device is you trying to figure out what trauma this character has and why he makes the decisions he makes, which is a very interesting character study, but it is wildly depressing. But as someone who is a creative and actor, it's really fun to read about why would you make the decisions you're making? What? So yeah, heavily annotated and highlighted this, and this is a book that I'd like to reread in 5 years and see what new thoughts are brought up, because this is just a book that really made me think about life, and I really like that. This is more like a 4-star. I do say it's a 5-star experience just because vlogging it was really fun, and I feel like I can talk to a lot of people about that book now, so it just feels more special. And then Priority of the Orange Tree, as I mentioned, the prequel or a companion novel is coming out this year. Yeah, so this book I tackled last year finally. 800 pages. Woo woo! And it's just so heavy. I'm just proud I did it, and it was a fun read. Definitely a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those fantasies where it takes about 200 pages to really get into it because you're following so many different perspectives. A lot of people say that this is a sapphic romance. Very true. We got a lot of gays in the book, which we love, but it's still a part of the fantasy world that same love marriages aren't looked upon proudly. They have to stay in hiding, basically. So it's a sapphic romance, but if you're expecting to see a lot of intimacy and romance from those characters, you don't, sadly. I'm just letting you know. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of war, there's a tree, There's dragons. Oh my god, there's so much happening in this book. It's like hard to encapsulate all of it, but it's a fun read. I highly recommend binging this book because it takes you for a spin. As I mentioned, I love the Black Witch Chronicles, so I just had to mention it's a favorite. I reread the first installment, the second installment, and third. I didn't grab all of them because they're heavy. These are big books, so I just had to grab it because it is literally a favorite. So if you are interested, the first book starts off with our main character, Ellerin, whose grandmother was a black witch, or she was kind of known as the Black Witch. She killed lots of people and established freedom for a lot of the witches. Basically, this book, there's so many different types of creatures, different types of people. There are, like, you know, the werewolves and shapeshifters and dragons and all kinds of people. And we have the mages too. So the Black Witch killed a bunch of the other races, so that way the mages could be at the top of their game, running the government, all that stuff. So now Black Witch is gone. Ellerin is, 18, fresh, and she wants to go to university to study and get a job and pick up a trade. But because her ancestor, everyone thinks she has these great magical powers, but actually she doesn't have any. And there's so many problems that happens because she looks just like the Black Witch. So, going to a university that is open to all the races, what do you think is gonna happen? A lot's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen. Oh, it's so fun. So much magic. Dragons. Love. The romance. The love triangle. She's steamy. Yeah, I'm only like 50 pages into this, but I'm assuming this is going to be a favorite of this year. The Demon Tide, the fourth installment. I love long fantasy books, if you couldn't tell. They're perfection. I did mention Open Water as being a favorite. I really enjoyed this. I underlined a bunch of sentences. It just really spoke to me, and it is one of those books where you just really want to like read out loud and take your time reading it because it's just so beautiful. But it is about a black guy who lives in London, I believe. He's British, and he talks a lot about his experience, but it's also a really cute love story, but not like your typical like love story. It's definitely has a little spin to it because she's dating someone and he's friends with him, and it's complicated. But there's a magical connection. But also dealing with trauma. Little fun side of trauma. There's always little trauma. So this was an amazing book. So I highly recommend if you're trying to get more into adult literature, something that's small, semi-easy to read. I only say that because the perspective is a little hard to get into because when he says you, he does mean himself, if that makes sense. So the perspective is a little hard to jump into. But I feel like for adult literature, it still was a like good introduction to it, and it's written so like musically, lyrically, beautifully. I love it. If you want an easier book to get into that's about adult romance, adult contemporary, I'd recommend the trilogy I was talking about. The Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. This is the second installment. Black Girls Must Be Magic. I love this series. I believe this is the series that really got me into adult fiction. The writing isn't necessarily lyrical, but it does talk about just a lot of things I feel like I relate to, being an adult trying to figure out romance. I'm not in the age yet where I'm trying to have kids, but in the first installment, Tabitha, our protagonist, finds out that she can't have kids. So she either, not can't have kids, but she like needs to start having kids right now. Like her egg clock is ticking. So she has to either have a kid or freeze her eggs, and it throws her for a loop because she's a career-driven woman. She's trying to get a promotion, she's a journalist, she wants to travel. She also doesn't have anyone who's like marriage material, so she's in a little bit of a pickle, and I highly recommend it. I recommend this for anyone looking for adult literature that's about like tackling big issues. This also does talk a lot about, obviously, being black. Same with Open Water, which is in high contrast to all the other books that I mentioned, so it's a good balance, you know. Contemporary is where I'm getting that, like, this is a very nice series, but this is like one of those books that talks about prejudice and racism without having lots of black people in it. Just saying. Oh, it does it so well. No judge, no tea. The last one I'm going to mention is the book that is by Christina Forrest that I thoroughly enjoyed, Zyla and Kai. This is my new favorite YA romance. It is just done so well. It's written like you like breeze through this, but also you're so captivated. You're like, what's happening? This is a story about Zyla and Kai, and we start the book knowing that they're both missing. They're in like a ski trip for their senior year of high school. They're both missing, and they had dated in the past and recently broke up. So we're all like, why'd they run away together? Are they dead? Where'd they go? What's going on? So it's just a wild ride. And then it flips back and forth to the beginning of their like love story. And oh my god, the main guy character goes to therapy and is dealing with his trauma. And it's in such a healthy, great way to see in YA, where it's like guys have to face their trauma. Like, it doesn't like sexualize trauma where it's like, oh, he's brooding and he's angry and he's hurt and that's okay because life sucks and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's not about that. So it's done really well. And she talks a lot about her, like how her parents' divorce and cheating on each other impacts her love life. So it really talks about that generational trauma, you know what I mean? I really liked it. It was so good. But yeah, those were my favorites of last year. They were so good. I highly recommend them, and I'm very excited to read just a lot more books this year that I'm excited for. I'm hoping to end my slump era by reading more gently, only pushing myself to read a book a week, and if I'm not enjoying the book I'm reading, I'm definitely going to put it down and pick up something else. Like right now, my heart is screaming fun romance for people in their 20s just figuring stuff out. That's the vibe I'm kind of feeling right now. So following that and not worrying about reading 100 books this year. Basically, I've been pushing myself to do that, and for anyone else who pushes themselves to do that, you know, why this arbitrary number? We shouldn't be chasing things just to hit a number. Last year I actually didn't manage to read 100 books. I don't know how many books I read last year. I stopped tracking on Goodreads. I have them all in my planner, but yeah, it's not, the number isn't as important. As long as I think you're having fun, that's what matters. Because my first year reading, my first year doing booktube, I only read 12 books, and I remember all of them so fondly. So I think I'm going to try and value my time just a little bit more in reading the books I enjoy and not just running through books to run through them. And I will unhaul a book if it's not enjoyable. I did say I would mention the books that I want to prioritize for this year, so really quickly, I want to prioritize the Last Edition series. I want to prioritize finishing An Ember in the Ashes. I still haven't read the last one. I want to prioritize The Demon Tide. What else? There's so many series that I feel like I really want to read, like Jade City, The Poppy War, but those aren't ones that I necessarily own. I own the first Jade City, but I want to binge the series. So that's also something I might do this year, is I might challenge myself to read certain series for the month or for a week. We'll see. I'm so excited. So hopefully this got you excited for reading too. Let me know what books you're excited for, either the ones that you own or the ones that are coming out soon. Get excited with me reading. And my next video will come out next week, posting once a week. Fun vlogs to hopefully keep you motivated and keep me accountable. That's the goal. So if you made it to the end of this video, leave down below this emoji so I know you're the real MVP, and consider joining my YouTube membership. If you want to support me, that is the best way to support my videos online. And if you want a bonus video, I have an unlisted video in the the description box below, because I keep filming tons of videos and then never posting them. So if you'd like a bonus video for free, check that out. Or you can also join the membership, but it's going to be the same video. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I'm happy I did this. I'm excited to read, but I do have a giant mess of books around me now that I have to clean up. So I will see you next week. I'm literally going to start the next reading vlog now. Get excited.